into the UFC conversation we go now, and it is UFC 307 going down this weekend, as it is once again an opportunity to see one of the pound-for-pound greats of his time step into the octagon, as Alex Pereira, this time not in an effort to save a card or on short notice, gets a real actual training camp against a real actual opponent. Kind of, as he faces Khalil Roundtree in the main event for the UFC's Light-Heavyweight Championship. In the co-main event, it is Juliana Pena taking on Raquel Pennington as they fight for gold as well. So let's get into the early storylines. We begin with Alex Pereira, who, honestly, I hope he is taking Khalil Roundtree much more seriously than I am, because my first note is Pereira needs to stay focused. This is not the bright lights of UFC 300. This is not the bright lights of a Madison Square Garden show that he has come in last minute and saved. This isn't International Fight Week that he is coming in and saving. This is just a regular ass pay-per-view. It is a one after the Sphere. It is all of these things, and it's against an opponent that is probably one of the worst he has faced in the UFC, to be perfectly frank. So he needs to keep that focus and not think about any of those things that I just said, and just walk into that cage on Saturday and take care of business. He needs to be able to keep that momentum going. And this is like a few of the boxing ones that we have done of this, where we are already looking at what is next. And I am continuing to bang that drum, hoping that what is next is an opportunity in the heavyweight division. This is a guy who, yes, there are probably a couple other fights who that he needs to take care of at 205 pounds. Rakic, Madrimov, a couple of those sorts of things. But this is someone who wants to go out and make history. And it's not like you have a heavyweight division that is beating down with contenders right now. You have two very old men who haven't fought in a very long time who will be fighting for your heavyweight championship next month. After that, you got a young stud who is knocking out every other contender on their way toward the heavyweight championship. So I'm not saying Pereira needs to get a heavyweight title opportunity next, although fun. I am saying that his next fight, I think, should be at 265 pounds. That is my personal belief. For Roundtree, he seems like a weird challenger. He had his last fight canceled because he tested positive for a banned substance. So the fight at UFC 303 gets pulled, and as punishment, he gets a championship opportunity. This is so weird. I was going to say, coming into this, that he feels like a mandatory challenger in boxing, but he doesn't even feel like that. This is beyond the scope of what I think a mandatory challenger in boxing would get. Honestly, this is kicking it old school a little bit. This is like the old Pride Grand Prix, where it's like, all right, well, it's the middleweight Grand Prix. I mean, we're not going to have the middleweight champion in, so he gets to face whoever, the 8th or 16th seed or whatever they would do. And so he goes in there against some absolutely poor sucker to just get obliterated. That is honestly what this feels like right now. And so this is, I think you can tell I'm not taking Roundtree overly seriously as a championship opposition. But Roundtree has an opportunity to pull off what would be the wildest upset in the history of the sport. This is, I think this would definitely be bigger than Rousey. And it would be up there with Sarah against GSP. When you consider that Pereira could be a triple champ by the time next year is done. Someone who is a champion in 3 different weight classes, probably not at the same time. That would be tough. But someone who has at least made that kind of history. He is right now, pound for pound, on my pound for pound rankings, number 2. And I think at worst you could put him 3rd. He's on an absolute tear. Roundtree his last win was against Anthony Smith, who we are just starting to, is he still good? Is he not? Not exactly a number 1 contender type of a fight. So Roundtree this weekend has a chance to shock the world in what I think would be the biggest upset in the history of the sport. Moving into the co-main event, also for a championship, as Juliana Pena looks to get back the belt that she won for a second against Amanda Nunes. For Pena, it is put up or shut up. She has been trying to go the Chael Sonnen, Colby Covington, whatever route of being the trash talker and I'm going to play the heel. And she kind of sucks at it. And no one cares. And, Amanda Nunes is retiring because she's scared of me. No one believes that. No one's believing you. Not at all. And so, yeah, you get a huge upset win over Amanda Nunes. Congratulations. That is one of the biggest upsets in the history of the sport. Nunes came out after and kind of proved it was a fluke by whooping that ass for 5 rounds. Pena's 3-2 in her last 5. If she wins this, then I'm not saying it validates everything. And, oh, well, Amanda Nunes was actually scared of her. Because I don't believe that for a second. And I don't believe that this validates Pena in being as good as she thinks she is. But it is a bit of validation, right? It's a 2-time champion now, if she's able to pull that off. If she loses, I don't think she will be taken seriously ever again as a title challenger, to be perfectly frank. For Raquel Pennington, it's kind of playing with house money. I don't think anyone thought she would have had this resurgence after Nunes lays down one of the most one-sided ass kickings in the history of the sport on Pennington back in 2018. She follows that up by missing weight, and losing to Jermaine Durandamy to be able to bounce back and work her way into this opportunity to be a champion again is an unbelievable bounce back for Raquel Pennington and an unbelievable kind of final act to this career. So we will see what comes of this fight this weekend. I'm very intrigued by this one. Overall, this isn't the biggest card out there. This isn't UFC or Noche UFC. This isn't one of those, but you got a couple of intriguing fights anyway at the top of the card. Coming up tomorrow, we'll look at the non-main event fighters that you should pay attention to on this particular show.